Yep, I'm checking YouTube. It will come up 1 minute later, but the recording is there. So, yeah, we are live. All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another ITGT Coffee Talks. We have another special guest. Uh, Koen is with us, and we will discuss about leadership. And first of all, I would like to introduce a little bit uh, about ITGT and also Koen as well. ITGT is a non-profit community, and we share the knowledge to impact the lives and change the world. So we don't. Uh, our aim is to share the knowledge. So thank you for being with us, and also thank you for Koen for being with us as well. And yeah, I would like to brief information. I would like to give brief information about the Koen. He's a leadership expert. I also attended his lectures back in 2012, so it was a long time.
Wow.
So yeah, I'm happy to have him back on this show. He has written 3 books, and his last book was Lead from the Middle. We It is important to us learn how to lead and how to manage our lives. So, Kun,
Mhm.
what is leadership? Maybe we can start from the beginning, but everyone is talking about that. Even our audience interacted on LinkedIn. They said manipulation and emotion control. What do you say?
Thank you, Karen. Thank you for the invitation. I'm very happy to be here. I really share your goal to give access to people to knowledge and wisdom and support them in making the world a better place. Maybe it's nice to know that I have spent a career in industry. My last job was as an HR manager of an IT department. We had about 450 internal IT people. And it was in that role that I was confronted with questions around leadership. There were a lot of complaints by the technical people, the analysts and the developers about how they were being led by their managers. And the top was complaining about the managers, about the delivery managers, the project managers. So there was some leadership complaints all around. I also remember that the internal customers were also complaining about the lack of leadership from the business analysts and the project managers. And the interesting thing is that we offered plenty of opportunities to our leaders to develop. So we had the Rolls Royces, the Teslas of leadership development. We had talent management processes. For each step in the leader career, you could follow the best programs with the best teachers. And it was as if the more we invested in leadership development, the bigger the leadership crisis became. So
Wow.
that was a challenge for me because it was on my table as an HR manager. So I started getting interested in audit. After audit, it became a top 3 risk, a lack of leadership. So I started studying the topic, and I joined Agile Management School to do research. And now I spend my life in sharing what I discovered. And there are mainly 2 discoveries I made. The first one is that leadership is an idea that is accessible for all people. While I was in business, I had a very exclusive idea about leadership. Leadership that are managers and that are extraordinary managers. While in fact, leadership is a very natural idea in many settings, in many contexts, in many roles, we can show up as a leader. And so I came to discover that the more we invite people to discover leadership and how they can contribute to success of groups and organizations, the larger the collective leadership will become in the system. So that was one thing I discovered, a very open idea about leadership. Second thing is that leadership development and leadership training is often too prescriptive and normative. We keep on explaining to people how they should behave as a leader, what they should do, which new model, which new three bullet points they have to do. And while leadership development also needs a component that it's more personal, that also addresses questions like, who am I as a leader? Who do I want to become as a leader? What hinders me, or what inhibits me to show up as a leader? What makes me afraid? Or which kind of leadership do I really like and develop further? These are all personal questions. And as long as we only push messages, people feel smaller. They have to deal with big ideas, and they lose confidence. And while it could be something more natural. So that's why we developed at Enter Management School a system of 19 leadership thoughts, 19 challenging ideas about leadership. And that's word material, and it says it all. 19 is a prime number. It means that you can, they are one, and they are, you can divide it by 19 and by one, so they are one whole. And at the same time, it's kind of many ideas based on science, so based on research of all different elements that can contribute to leadership. And we invite people to explore those ideas and take those ideas that matter for them and that they want to develop themselves and as in such a way grow as a leader. So that was a bit the starting point.
Great. Koen, I remember one card that I'm pretty sure you will show. It was red shoe, and it was saying walk to talk.
Yes.
Yeah. So after that, I saw that card. I changed my walking style. Definitely, trust me. Yeah. I was using my corner. Yeah. Talks to walk. So
now it's green.
Was, yeah. No. So that was one of the insights that I took for till this now. So I'm pretty sure all the 19 thoughts who is listening right now will benefit those ideas, and I hope they internalize and they take them to their life journey.
Yeah. Thank you. That's what typically happens, that people remember one thought and that it helps them as a reminder in how to show up as a leader. So I will share my favorite thoughts.
Yeah, great.
And talk a bit about them, and I hope on some questions and interaction. The topic was also about leaderless leaders. So I will also have a talk about self-organization, with the trend in a lot of companies today. The first thought, I hope I make this visible. If you think saying good morning to your people is a waste of time, think again. The other numbers on the thoughts are random, but this one not. It all starts with connecting to people. So that's the card that says leaders work with people. They work through people. They don't work above people. Working above people is power, and you can execute power, while leaders work first connect. And there's also an article of an Harvard Business study. First connect, then lead.
Yeah.
If you don't show curiosity, interest, openness to who you want to work with, people will maybe follow you, but not from their heart. It's like people first care if you are open to them before they will take your lead. They first look at you as who are you, and do you have the best interest for me, before they will accept your strength. So strength is important, maturity, expertise, But it's first connect and then show your strength. Because what happens if you start with strength, and that's what we naturally do, we get a leadership role, we are project managers, and we want to impress our project team.
Mm-hmm.
But while doing that, you make the people also afraid. You make some distance between you and them.
True.
And they will lean backwards. They will take an attitude of, okay, we will listen to you and we expect leadership from you. Well, if your first move is to get to know the people and to establish relation, then you can start building together and taking up leadership roles that are needed. So that's the first one.
I think it is a great opening, because it is like a dance, the connection, and it's like a dance.
Yeah.
You have to make the opening move. And I worked as an auditor. Auditors don't seem liked by the employers, and so that's why they have a tough ice to break between the employee and the auditor to find the common ground. So the opening to try to find a connection between them is really, really important. Building trust between us, why we are here, why we do this.
Yeah, show up as a human being.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. So this is also about the art of listening. How capable are you to really listen? If you have a conversation with someone, are you already jumping to conclusions? Are you already making some judgments? Okay, I have enough and I know how to go further. Or are you really curious? And people grow if you give them attention. It's attention, and it's also the most valuable resource we have. To what do we give attention? And as a leader, you work with people, so you put your attention in people. If you show up all the time in, I don't have any time, things have to go fast, and so on, you just create obstacles in working together.
Sure.
So strong leaders, and part of the research we did is interviewing a lot of leaders who had a positive impact on their organization. And what one of the defining elements that they were able to make time for profound conversations and show genuine interest in what drives people. For instance, I remember a CEO asking an IT project manager who was explaining a huge business case in the retail business. And the CEO said, "Do you really believe your story?"
Wow.
And the IT manager was, whoa, because he had prepared a deck of slides. But this is typical leadership behavior. Be really interested. Do you believe what you are saying? And it was not to make the project manager afraid. It was a genuine interest question. And the project manager started saying, well, I still have doubts about this and that. And then you had a genuine conversation. It was no longer the project manager who wanted to convince his CEO of a business case, but it became a shared exploration of what was needed. And of course, that's a shortcut to success if you have an open conversation about risks and possibilities and things like that. But it's about that listening quality. Not all the time, not everywhere, also being clear. For instance, I have now 1 hour for you, and I won't get distracted. I put on my laptop screen, I put my smartphone on silent mode. I don't let interrupt anybody. We have 1 hour, and it's 1 hour or half an hour, but it's quality time. Far more better than all the time in a busy mode and treating all kinds of conversations in the same fast consuming mode somehow.
True.
So saying good morning, it's not only saying good morning, but in which way do you say good morning? Is it a real good morning? Are you really interested about how are you doing?
True.
Yeah. So that's thought number one, and it starts with there, and it's if you really take it up to next levels, you also come close to spirituality, about being in relation. about being open, not only with people, but with nature, with what's happening in the world, being touched by what happens, and not being closed up in your own projects and objectives and day-to-day concerns. So that's
True.
the bigger sense of this leadership thought.
What you were saying, what you told right now is actually reminded me the Goldman, the professor. It was I was reading his one of his book, Focus. I think I started last week, and I'm still reading that. So it reminded me that being
Daniel
there.
Goleman.
Yeah, Goldman.
Yeah.
Sorry for my mistake, but yeah. So it reminded me of that book. I mean, being there, listening genuinely,
Yes.
building bridges.
Yes.
So, I mean, it was really, really important. And thank you.
That's the professor on emotional intelligence also, I think. And there's some very interesting books where he talks with the Dalai Lama. So, and there you see that he also starts with emotional intelligence, about self-awareness, and we'll come to that, and empathy as a skill. And you see how he also ends up with being really profound about the importance of being in relation, of listening. And it's not just listening; it's listening with your with the deep sense of what is happening in this conversation, and what does it? How does it speak to us being together about what we are having to do with each other? So that's one. I'll take the next one.
Yeah, I'm excited. It's like taking cards from
from the deck.
And
luckily, I have to choose them. I cannot, or maybe people who are listening can type a number and then I draw the card. So
yeah, definitely, I have to type on the chat. So while you are talking, I will type on the chat.
Yeah. So the second one is leaders make the world a better place. I won't talk too much about it, but of course. Leadership goes along with ethics and moral questions. It's the question of and the higher up you are on the in terms of responsibility, the more urgent question becomes of am I doing good? Do I have the right dream? How single focused is what I'm doing on bottom line objectives, or how do I also take into account other stakeholders? And a step further, do I also look at the people who don't have a voice, who don't have the possibility to put pressure or to give orders or to force you into doing things? So also taking into account the silent majorities or minorities. So that's the topic of ethics, and how do you deal with ethical dilemmas? And they can be really simple. For instance, if you have an employee who is at the edge of dropping out, no longer able to handle stress, do you and you have a real deadline for a customer, what do you do? Will you choose the task or will you choose the person? So it's already in those day-to-day questions that you have to trade off certain tensions or paradoxes and deal with them, and not just choose blindsided. Be open up to see collateral damage and also take that into account. To see the risks. For instance, and that's also topic one, connection. It's also the theme of empathy. If a certain employee really is in a bad situation and you react, your first reaction is, yes, but what about the customer? Well, then you have an empathy failure. That person will maybe do the job, but he will never trust you again.
Yeah.
He will take distance. He will see you as someone who doesn't take in your concerns. So that's leadership is making the world a better place. So my all-time favorite is, if you fill the room, how can your people grow?
That's the elephant in the room, huh? Yeah.
No, elephant in the
No,
room is not.
I know. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, but I'm still
But
curious about that.
but
You know?
often leaders are the elephant in the room because they take too much place.
Yeah. True. True.
This is the thought about the importance of self-conscious in leadership. So it maybe would be even clearer if you would say, if your ego fills the room,
True.
how can your people grow? So it's not about uh, having a place of importance for people. Leadership is a special place of being meaningful for people and topics and so on. But often our ego, our emotions, our
Mhm.
convictions stand in the way.
True.
And we get trapped by them, because if we only acknowledge what we find important and what we need, we don't create space to be influenced, to be to become and grow open for other ways of handling and dealing with situations.
True.
A
Cool.
concrete example, for instance, yeah,
Mhm.
sorry.
So sorry. I mean, the thing is that sometimes it is a micromanagement, or
Yeah,
sometimes it lets employees not to dream or the result. I mean, he or she can be superstar with the one move by
yeah,
solving the problem or reach
yeah,
the better place.
yeah,
But the thing is that uh, employees might feel they try to reach someone's dreams by creating someone's dream work, so that they are not evolving or they are not
yeah,
participate to the
yeah,
actually the uh,
yeah,
all the yeah time.
yeah. True. Micromanagement. Concrete example, I'm a teacher, and I can, so my job is to help grow people. As a teacher, I can choose. I can talk all day to the people. I can be
Mhm.
very inspiring, um, have many stories, many concepts, many models, and people will end the day probably tired and maybe
Mhm.
also in awe for inspirational qualities of what I have taught. I can do the reverse. I can start and say, I know nothing. I know a lot of things, but it's up to you. Who are you and what do you need and what are your challenges? And let's have a talk. And we have a talk, and maybe we get to one or two topics, and I can give some insights, quarter of an hour, small TED talk. That's my take on the question.
Yeah.
And then we go back to the audience, we go back to the students, and we let them exchange also. How did you address this difficult situation? For instance, as a student, you're in a project with three others, and two of them are slackers. They don't work
Yeah.
with you. You just lean behind, and they don't care if you get a good grade or a minor. As long as you pass, it's okay. What do you do? How do you handle that situation? And listen to how others have handled that. And maybe I can add some wisdom and some experience to that. And then the students will not have listened one day to how do you lead a project and what's all important and the phases of a project and the models and so on and so on. But they will leave the room with solutions for their own particular problems in their own context, and they will feel empowered. So, and that's the challenge for me as a teacher. How much do I fill the room? Or how do I create a room where there's a lot of space for people to show up, to open up, to explore, to get touched in their hearts and in their guts, and
Mhm.
they start to dare to think out loud and to experiment, and maybe they try something, and this is what you want to see happening in groups and in projects, and not always all the time. But for instance, I work a lot with heads of schools, and then I ask a question: in how many meetings are you during the week? Yeah. 10, 20, 50 meetings. And then I ask the question, how do you fill the room in those meetings? What is your idea on how you will add value to that particular meeting? Are you there to do it all, to make the agenda, to lead the agenda, to keep the time, to make a report, to make decisions, to sell solutions? Or are you just there to lead the process? Or are you there to help learn people to do things? And typically what happens is that as a leader, we know how to do things and we want to go fast. So if we ask inputs from other people, we easily get frustrated and bored about the quality of the inputs.
Yeah.
So we don't do that. We just want to move on, and that's what happens if people speak up the first time. It's clumsy, it's awkward, strange ideas. But if you show confidence and if you show happiness because people speak up, they will feel some self-confidence. I value, I matter, I'm seen, I'm recognized. And maybe the second time, they will already have a more clearer voice. They will already have had some reflections before the meeting, and not just being passive and going through the meeting as we all do. And that is the value of that card of becoming self-aware and self-conscious. And how do I show up in this particular meeting? What do I want to see happen? And what do I need to do to make that happen?
True.
It's also a question of being adaptive, because it's a whole different thing to start a meeting with a check-in question to create some confidence. Remember card 1. How are you doing? And saying good morning, and let people say, I'm doing well, I'm not doing well. It's totally different than projecting the agenda on screen. Everybody looks at the agenda, point 1, point 2, point 3, okay, actions, followed up, done, and go. And then I was explaining the value of check-ins with school directors, and what one school director said, yeah, but what happens if one of my team members will start crying? I said, oh my God, you're head of a school. You have thousands young people in your classrooms. And you should a teacher wonder what to do when a pupil starts crying? Shouldn't be a natural reaction to say what's happening?
Yeah.
What's happening? Tell me. No, sure. There's so much fear with a lot of leaders. What will happen if we start treating people as normal human beings?
Yeah.
As if people like to sell drama in a team meeting, as if they love to I don't know, to start crying or to be very long, speak very long about how. No, people want to work together. They want to contribute. So that's about that self-awareness. I want to create psychological safety in a team. That means that you need to check in with people, how they are feeling, inviting them to speak up to their emotions, to speak up to truth. That also means that you, as a leader, you need to go first, that you need a lot of time for people to speak up and so on. So that means to take less space in the room and give the room to the people.
Great. I mean, I can do a metaphor about that. It's just gearing up, gearing down, give space, let them talk, be adaptive. These are the key takeaways from your speech about that card.
But in a conscious way, that's it. And that's what makes it hard. So if you design a workshop with a brainstorm and then a closing, and then you want some creativity, and you really need a script. And developing a script is effort. It's a creative effort. It's testing ideas. Should I take half an hour for the start of the meeting, a quarter of an hour? Shall I put people in duo and let them have a talk, and then rise to the more the whole room. So all little questions that you need to solve, and that means stepping into a meeting in a conscious way, because you know why, and you know the script. Some brilliant research about the value of social scripts to, for instance, in virtual IT teams, the research was done that the quality of the teamwork rose when in the team, before getting to work stuff, they had to exchange on one question which was more personal. For instance, in your family of origin, which place do you had with brothers and sisters, and how does that play with you still? Do you behave as the younger brother or the older brother, or in the middle? Or to have an exchange on that, talk to 15 minutes, and then start working. And by doing that, which was scripted, everybody had 2 minutes or some kind of signal. So it was not the idea to talk long and broadly about it, but just check in, open up as a human being. The atmosphere become more relaxed. We are all human beings working together, which gives quality to the work that needs to be done. So that's, but in a conscious way. It's not just let's have a talk or have a team building and we get to know each other. It's designed. And that's the professional leadership that we need today, to design those moments. And is it learning, or is it decision making, or is it creativity, or is it dealing with difficult emotions? All different settings.
Wow.
Which,
Well, I will think about that. I have moments, but it is coming from my guts. It's a gut feeling. But the thing is that after listening you, definitely script must be there for those moments. At least I have to have.
That's why you see that the role of facilitator.
True.
Also in change, for instance, you see that methodologies and competencies of facilitators, also group coaches, roles like that become more and more important. You see that become also leader roles. You have managers, project leaders, you have also process facilitators, and even other roles that work together. It's not that as a manager you need to have that process facilitation competence to the extreme, but you have to know the importance and pull someone in, or even better, invite one of your co-workers in the team who has a knack for that, who likes preparing, to give him the role. Is it okay that you prepare a script for the next meeting? And you come check with me 1 week up front, and we co-design, and that's empowering people, putting people in a leader role. And that's what I meant when I said I discovered that there are so many ways to empower people to take up leadership roles.
True.
And that's the way how we grow leadership in a team, and also as a person, because as a leader, you have more influence if you can help other people to show influence or to take influence.
True.
Yeah.
But I can just say wow. So I'm curious about the next car.
Okay. And it was already more or less the last one, but we can see how it goes. That's leadership is shared more like a jazz band. This is about the idea of shared leadership. And this is tied into the movement we see in a lot of organizations to flatten the hierarchy. So to have less top-down dynamic in an organization, and to have more horizontal leadership. So groups, communities, teams, networks that have their own, that create their own source of leadership in an organization. But the definition of shared leadership is shown brilliantly in research in sport teams. And you were telling me that you have an important match in
Yeah.
Turkey going on. I don't know if there's already some scoring.
Sorry, I'm at the right moment, present right now, so I closed
Okay.
everything. So I have no idea.
Just checking, Karen.
Yeah,
Just
thank
checking.
you.
So there's a researcher, a Flemish researcher, who went to sport teams and asked to the team members, who do you see as a leader and why?
Mhm.
And that's the final question in leadership.
Exactly. I'm curious about that.
Who do you see as a leader? And it's a question we take to teams, even to management teams of important companies. We take the team, also the CEO, and we ask the team members, who do you see in the team and why? Very personal, tough question, because it's putting the elephant in the room.
True.
What she discovered is that people can be seen as a leader for one of four roles. So you can fulfill one of four functions to be seen by a group as a leader. If you have a football team, and I don't know if it's which team is playing Dortmund tonight.
Beşiktaş.
Besiktas.
Yeah.
So if you have Besiktas, what could a football player do to be seen as a leader in the group, on the field? Would you have any idea on what?
That's a tough question. Coordinating the midfield, defense. You both of them. Yeah.
One of the roles is more the task leader. So the player who knows the game through and through, who went to a lot of wars and came back alive, who knows a lot of different situations, and who is able to give in the moment instructions on what needs to be done. And typically in moments where there's some uncertainty or fatigue, or the players who do that, who have that ability, they are seen as a leader. And typically it's a role that goes along with seniority, maturity, expertise. But it's not
it
because
sounded like anticipation and determination. But sorry for interrupting. That just came up to my mind.
Anticipation, that's true. They have some crystallized intelligence. They see clear in a very complex situation because of the experience. And in that way, they are able to give the right advice. But it's not because you have that crystallized intelligence or you have that seniority that people see you as a leader. It's because you do something with it. Leadership is always about impact. It's about showing up and doing something. It's not because you have expertise. If you do nothing with it, if you don't share it, if you don't show it, people will see you as an expert and not as a leader.
True.
So we have one role, Kiran, 3 others to go. So we have the task leader, that's a typical one. What could a player do to be seen as a leader in a sports team? And they did research in international level and several kinds of team sports: rugby, football, basket, handball. Yeah.
Enabler or connector from the side, the tactics. Yeah,
brilliant. I see you went to Antwerp Management School to develop leadership skills.
Yeah.
So the connector it's what we call the social leader. So the player who sees where the play between the players is no longer fluid. He sees there's something going on. There's some irritation, frustration. One player doesn't give the ball anymore to another one, and he addresses that. So he does something. I'm a psychologist. I see all of that stuff, but I find it often very hard to speak to it, to do something with it. So the social leader, he will go to the player and say, "Hey, what's happening? I see you're irritated." And then the player will say, "Yeah, this and that." And after he has expressed his emotions, he's back in the game. He's back in the team because he is seen by a team member. And if no one does that frustrated player, he will keep getting more frustrated. He doesn't know what to do anymore. And typically, that's also in a moment where that player may become a bit too aggressive in the play and will make a fault or something. So we have the social leader, we have the task leader.
The tougher and tougher gets.
Yes.
Yeah. Those were the easiest one. Negotiator, maybe, or I have no idea.
Brilliant,
Really?
Karen.
Seriously?
Yeah. But negotiator as the representative of the group. So it's the one who negotiates with the outer world, who represents the group to stakeholders. So who will talk to the media, to talk to the president of the team, talk to the trainer, talk to the sponsors who shows up for the sponsors and do the stuff. The player who does that, he speaks for the group, and he will also be seen as a leader in the group.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then we have still one to go.
That one.
Already 3 out of 4. It's an extraordinary accomplishment. Normally I get these answers with a group of people, 20 people, 30, and they shout, and you are doing it alone. So
thank you. Now it is the failure time. I have no idea.
Well, you did it with me, Karen. You showed it. It's the motivator. So it's the player who puts positive energy in the group. Who shouts, "Come on, guys! We still have time. We can do this." It's typically a role in a lot of organizations who is underestimated. And why? Because the motivator is not necessarily the expert. Because he values team spirit and motivation, and not necessarily the right solution or the right thing to do, or he puts energy. And in organizations where we put intellectualism and expertise on the highest level, we look a bit to those motivators as well. It's nice, but they are not really the real thing or the most important. So, but what is extraordinary in that research, and that's the key message, is that the teams who are able to divide those roles over more players were higher up in the ranking. So what you didn't say, Karen, is the captain.
Yeah,
normally
I didn't say that.
The captain is the formal leader. Eh? He is the formal leader of the group. In that research, in 40%, and that research continues, in 40%, a captain wasn't seen in one of the 4 roles.
Yeah, I wasn't seeing as well, because it should be a natural one.
Well, interesting, eh?
Yeah.
I don't think it's a good idea that the captain doesn't have one of those 4 roles. But so the message is that if you are able to have and develop in your group several people who take responsibility for part of the leadership work, and that also can become an open collaboration. For instance, you have a group of 12 collaborators, and you have 3 or 4 people who kind of manage together the complexity of what those people have to do. Then you have a leadership system in the group, and it's no longer everybody looks at the team leader. And the team leader, it's no longer the team leader who puts the burden on he to motivate and inspire people, and to solve all relational issues, and to be the master of expertise and solutions, and to represent the team to higher up management, or to suppliers, or to consultants, and so on and so on. Wow. So that's what you see happening. We are working a lot with that idea on how can leadership become a more open system without all the status and privilege and power stuff, for the greater good of the group and the team. It's a tough idea, and certainly in cultures like Belgium, and I think also Turkey, where there's a lot of distance between people with power and without power.
Yeah,
and that's something that stands in the way. We as a people, we tend to make a lot of distance. If we see someone with a lot of power, we take distance, and we have respect. True. We keep silent, and we are obedient. Yeah. which also means the moment we have a leader, we are laid back. We have a leader and he will do the work for us.
Sure.
While in shared leadership and in cultures, for instance, that are more Northern European, which are more democratic in the sense of equality is a very important value. There you see how CEOs with huge responsibility can sit in a meeting and you wouldn't even know that he's a CEO. He just is in that meeting, led by a person, and he handles himself. He doesn't fill the room, not mentally and not emotionally, not physically. And he takes part of the meeting and he's off. He doesn't have to show that he's in command or in charge. And that is, of course, a condition for sharing leadership, is that in different constellations, it's not always the same person with the most stars and stripes who take responsibility for a situation. To make it even more clear, if the captain of a sports team would think of himself, I'm the one and only leader, and if he would feel threatened by some players in the group who also try to show leadership in a natural way, what will happen? He will try to suppress it. He will feel threatened. And he will even start complaining to the trainer. From you have to do something with that player because he has he has too much ego. He has to be put in his place. You're just a player, center field, and that's it. So that's the whole idea of shared leadership. We work a lot with. If you talk about leaders, leaderless leadership, that was a bit the topic of this conversation. Well, that's that idea that strong groups can have that impression that you have not one strong leader, that you have a group of leaders. And what does that mean, a group of leaders? That you have a group of strong professional individuals who collaborate for a shared purpose.
Perfect description. I mean, definitely the idea is there. And while you were talking, I didn't want to disrupt, but I had some kind of a speech today about that, about a person who shared his or her feeling with me that that stripes makes distance between him or her and that person. But the thing is that I was seeing in this different perspective, and I was seeing, okay, he has stripes, but we are on the same table.
Yes.
So you don't have to.
In that situation, we are two human beings.
Yeah.
And in this situation, we are working together.
Yeah.
So and we make abstraction of.
So don't make your emotional stress on you. Just take up, talk, involve, and do some interactions. And the second thing that you mentioned about how to become, let's say, leaderless leadership environment. I saw what you said, that that motivators, connectors, and I see in real life. Actually, it is my observation. Those kind of unique people, that the last thing that you said about the professionalism, and everyone knows their duty and their responsibilities to become successful.
Yes.
So I can observe from one of that today's team, the Beşiktaş, that I observe most, because there are some kind of cheerful players, and there are some defensive midfield who connects and reads the game. So definitely I observe in real life. And thank you very much for giving that football team, because that's perfect fit.
It's a very natural thing. It's a very natural thing. The hard thing is how to still foster those natural dynamics in very tensed, high demanding situations. It's easy as a group of friends to develop some natural shared leadership. It's tremendously tough to do that as a trainer of I don't know Besiktas or Manchester United. So that's the kind of trainership you need to establish that kind of dynamic in the group.
True.
That's very inspiring to see that happening. You know, for instance, the Belgium team who are hugely successful, they started playing better when Eden Hazard became the captain. And why was that? Because as a captain, he didn't care about being a leader. He cared
Exactly.
about the fun, the play.
Yeah.
He brought in the element of let's enjoy ourselves. And in such a tense situation, in the I don't know, the semi-final in the World Championship, have a player, a captain, who just says, "Let's have some fun." Yeah, that's what the group needs to relax and collaborate.
True.
Instead of a captain who really puts pressure. This is the match of our lives, and everybody needs to be sharp, and everybody has to be. No, they're already focused 200%. What they need is a bit of
True.
lowering the pleasure and having fun, because that's what when the team has fun, then you know that they know what they are doing. Yeah.
You know what is interesting? Before today's match, the pre-match interviews, one of the players said that our coach is saying that there are no substitute players. There are players who earn their
Yeah.
position by their individual
Yeah.
training efforts.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was a
Exactly.
pre-match interview that I listened
Yeah.
just today,
Yeah.
and one of the
So
players shared.
in shared leadership, the element of being inclusive, always include people and give people roles, and not making any distinctions, and keep on including people is essential.
Yeah.
Not using categories. I remember once, as HR manager, I had a big project and they named it the Star Project. So all the IT people who were working for the Star Project felt stars, and
Wow.
all the others felt, well, yeah. How do you feel when you're not put on the star field?
Yeah, true.
So important to be inclusive, and not to get lost in status, privilege, power stuff. Yeah.
But by the way, Kun, one of our viewers shared the number, but before that, I have a question. Uh, there are also the power issue.
Yeah.
Not say the issue, but the thing is that how do you see soft power? I mean, do you think there can be soft power or there's just a power?
I don't like very much the idea of soft and hard, because the hardest things to do is showing vulnerability in a tough situation. Um, so the emotion, dealing with out loud with emotions and tough emotions, is a very hard thing to do. While that competency to manage and contain that is being seen as a soft skill. So there's something strange happening in my brain when I had to make the distinction. But of course, there's that when I started with leadership that works with people, uses soft influence mechanisms, like for instance consulting, asking advice, coaching behavior, inspirational behavior, having an open conversation on what's in it for you, what's in it for me, let's make a deal, talking about purpose, meaning, the value of the group, while using the power of position. You have to do this because I'm your boss, or the power of law. You have to do this because the law prescribes it. It works, of course, and it is needed. But as a leader, if you use that kind of force, you also know that you lose commitment, um, sense of self-esteem with that person. You increase fear. you lose the trust of that person. So if you use that kind of power, which can be necessary, be very aware to restore the relation afterwards. Not just let that moment go, come back to it and restore
I
the
see.
trust, restore the relation. It's not that you cannot make tough decisions, which in the moment, but be aware of the fact that that narrows your leadership. How do you call that? Support with the people. Yeah.
I see. I see. So, in a metaphorical way, that actually the power increase the tension of the connection and their kind of disruption of the flow between the communication flow between
Yeah.
two persons.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
It decreases the quality of relationship. Think about parentship. As parents, we are leaders of our
Yeah.
children. If you use a lot of obligations and norms and punishments, then you lower the quality. What happens is
True.
that your child will be less open, will start to hide things, who will
True.
draw back in his room and will avoid contact. And that's what happens. That's what also people do in relations with very bossy leaders. They start avoiding, and certainly now with hybrid working and virtual teams and so on,
Yeah.
people can hide more
Yeah.
easily. And what do we do then? Install control systems so
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
people feel controlled in their house.
Yeah.
So that's
True.
putting even more fear into the system. So that doesn't help the relationship. And no matter what we think, research shows again and again, if we as human beings have to do risky business, do things that are um, exciting, new, creative, where we really need to depend on each other. That I got your back, you got my back, no matter what happens. That needs high quality relations. If you imprison people, and that's one of the cards, leaders are anything but prison guards. If you imprison them with control
Yeah.
systems, the moment that they can get out, they will get out.
True.
That's it. And if you have a huge pipeline of people who can replace them, it's workable. You think
Yeah.
about Amazon and e-commerce. There's a
Yeah.
huge reservoir of poor people who will do the job. But if
True.
you want talent, people with talent and personality and voice and creativity, you will lose them easily if they feel that they only are being controlled and commanded.
True. True. And one of our viewers shared her number with us, Neil. Yeah, and she asked for the seventh card. I don't know what is that, but we will see.
Card number 7.
Yeah.
I think it's
Uh,
the one about teams. Let's see if I have. Yes. So card number 7 is the main ingredient of leadership is the rest of the team. So this is about making teams stronger and developing that competency, that capacity of building teams, putting talents together, and do interventions that make that make teams stronger. It's also the functional theory in leadership. What is a leader? The leader does what the team needs to be done. So it doesn't start from leadership style and leadership ideals and norms and qualities and values. It starts with this team. What does this team do? And we will provide for that. So there's a sense of servant leadership also. But in that insight, we really address the ins and outs of what teams need. How do you motivate a team? How do you create a shared model in a team? How do you create a transactive memory, a sense of purpose? How do you work with roles? How do you install team processes, for instance, like sharing information, taking decisions, learning processes. What do you do in the beginning of the year, in the midst of the year, in the end of the year, and so on, and so on, and so on. So that's really
I see.
about teams, and how can you make teams more autonomous and less dependent on you as a leader.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Those are the key words that we have to take in consideration. I mean, that I try to took, but definitely I will rewatch the video again to just take notes about that. Currently, I can't take notes, but definitely I will take notes. And the time flies. Our last
Yes.
2 minutes. Thank you for being with us, Koen. I mean, I learned a lot again, and even one of your wording or the let's say the sentences that I still remember, that why you are being here, about controlling the classroom, filling the classroom. I
Yes.
still remember that. That was your first lesson that I remember. You stood in front of the
Of the
board.
group. Yeah.
Yeah, and I still remember your speech about that. And definitely it was a really refreshing memory time for
Nothing
me.
has changed.
Yeah, so
Leadership is ancient and it's of all cultures, so there's some truths
the
that
thing
you
is
can
that,
revisit.
yeah, I want to say that the thing is, learning from you is like a wine, let's say ancient, but it values up with the time. So definitely
Thank you.
that means that I still remember your speech. That means that I was there that moment,
Yes.
and I took those knowledge. I try to take those knowledge from you, and
Yeah.
learn and take my tools stronger for in the life process. But definitely,
Great.
I mean,
Yeah. Let's keep
every
spreading the words.
yeah, definitely. I will try my best sharing my knowledge, because at the end we have a limited time, but the
Yes.
time during that time we have to add up the knowledge for the better future. Definitely,
Yes.
definitely. That's
Yes.
what the Prometheus tried, and we are one of those Prometheuses still alive. So
Yeah. Keep the fire going.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great.
So thank you very much, Koen. Vielen Dank. And
Thank you for the invitation, and
thank
I'm
you.
looking forward for some feedback and after reactions. Yeah.
Super, definitely. And anyone who wants to communicate or contact with the Koen, definitely you can reach him or via LinkedIn.
Yeah.
You can find him on LinkedIn or any other platform. Do you suggest, Koen, before the closing up?
Google me, and some things will show up.
Definitely. And for everyone, please publish your book on English. Definitely, we are looking forward to read on any other platforms.
Well, the book on 19 thoughts, there is an English copy of that.
Super duper.
Yeah.
And
19 challenging thoughts about leadership.
Definitely, I will put down all the informations below the video.
Yeah.
So thank you. Bye,
Thank you very much.
everyone.
See you later. Ciao.